welcome. I am Scott Ferguson. I'm going to read for you today something I think very special. I'm excited about it. I'm going to read to you the first of three excerpts from Mohandas Gandhi, an autobiography, the story of my experiments with truth. This book was first published in 2 volumes in 1927 and 1929. He started the writing in 1925. The chapters stand alone, even though this is a sequential autobiography. I'm going to start with the introduction because this introduction is not as, quite frankly, dull as so many introductions are. And I do think it will set the table nicely for future readings from this book. Gandhi was certainly a fascinating person. That's a very pedestrian thing to say, isn't it? That's not exactly insightful that Gandhi was a fascinating person, but it's true, I think. At least I think it's true. And the book is fascinating and very readable. And it is presented in very digestible chunks in the form of chapters, these experiments with truth. A quick note to the copyright police: I can find no indication that either the autobiography as a whole or this particular volume, which was printed quite a long time ago, several decades ago, is under any copyright protection. So if you're with the copyright authorities, go ahead and come after me. Let me know. But I hope that you'll enjoy this. I think that you will. Let's read the introduction from Mohandas Gandhi, an autobiography, the story of my experiments with truth. 4 or 5 years ago, at the instance of some of my nearest co-workers, I agreed to write my autobiography. I made the start, but scarcely had I turned over the first sheet when riots broke out in Bombay and the work remained at a standstill. Then followed a series of events which culminated in my imprisonment at Yeravda. Mr. Jaramdas, who was one of my fellow prisoners there, asked me to put everything else on one side and finish writing the autobiography. I replied that I had already framed a program of study for myself, and that I could not think of doing anything else until this course was complete. I should indeed have finished the autobiography had I gone through my full term of imprisonment at Yeravda, for there was still a year left to complete the task when I was discharged. Swami Anand has now repeated the proposal, and as I have finished the history of Satyagraha in South Africa, I am tempted to undertake the autobiography for Navajivan. That was a weekly publication. The Swami wanted me to write it separately for publication as a book, but I have no spare time. I could only write a chapter week by week. Something has to be written for Navajivan every week. Why should it not be the autobiography? The Swami agreed to the proposal, and here I am, hard at work. But a God-fearing friend had his doubts, which he shared with me on my day of silence. "What has set you on this adventure?" he asked. "Writing an autobiography is a practice peculiar to the West. I know of nobody in the East having written one, except amongst those who have come under Western influence. And what will you write? Supposing you reject tomorrow the things you hold as principles today, or supposing you revise in the future your plans of today, is it not likely that the men who shape their conduct on the authority of your word, spoken or written, may be misled? Don't you think it would be better not to write anything like an autobiography, at any rate just yet? This argument had some effect on me, but it is not my purpose to attempt a real autobiography. I simply want to tell the story of my numerous experiments with truth, and as my life consists of nothing but those experiments, it is true that the story will take the shape of an autobiography. But I shall not mind if every page of it speaks only of my experiments. I believe, or at any rate flatter myself with the belief, that a connected account of all these experiments will not be without benefit to the reader. My experiments in the political field are now known, not only to India, but to a certain extent to the civilized world. For me, they have not much value, and the title of Mahatma that they have won for me has, therefore, even less. Often the title has deeply pained me, and there is not a moment I can recall when it may be said to have tickled me. But I should certainly like to narrate my experiments in the spiritual field, which are known only to myself, and from which I have derived such power as I possess for working in the political field. If the experiments are really spiritual, then there can be no room for self-praise. They can only add to my humility. The more I reflect and look back on the past, the more vividly do I feel my limitations. What I want to achieve, what I have been striving and pining to achieve these 30 years, is self-realization, to see God face to face, to attain moksha. I live and move and have my being in pursuit of this goal. All that I do, by way of speaking and writing, and all my ventures in the political field are directed to this same end. But as I have all along believed that what is possible for one is possible for all, my experiments have not been conducted in the closet, but in the open. And I do not think that this fact detracts from their spiritual value. There are some things which are known only to oneself and one's Maker. These are clearly incommunicable. The experiments I am about to relate are not such, but they are spiritual, or rather moral, for the essence of religion is morality. Only those matters of religion that could be comprehended as much by children as by older people will be included in this story. If I can narrate them in a dispassionate and humble spirit, many other experimenters will find in them provision for their onward march. Far be it from me to claim any degree of perfection for these experiments. I claim for them nothing more than does a scientist who, though he conducts his experiments with the utmost accuracy, forethought, and minuteness, never claims any finality about his conclusions, but keeps an open mind regarding them. I have gone through deep self-introspection, searched myself through and examined and analyzed every psychological situation. Yet I am far from claiming any finality or infallibility about my conclusions. One claim I do indeed make, and it is this. For me, they appear to be absolutely correct and seem, for the time being, to be final. For if they were not, I should base no action on them. But at every step I have carried out the process of acceptance or rejection and acted accordingly. And so long as my acts satisfy my reason and my heart, I must firmly adhere to my original conclusions. If I had only to discuss academic principles, I should clearly not attempt an autobiography. But my purpose being to give an account of various practical applications of these principles, I have given the chapters I propose to write the title of The Story of My Experiments with Truth. These will, of course, include experiments with nonviolence, celibacy, and other principles of conduct believed to be distinct from truth. But for me, truth is the sovereign principle, which includes numerous other principles. This truth is not only truthfulness in word, but truthfulness in thought also, and not only the relative truth of our conception, but the absolute truth, the eternal principle, that is, God. There are innumerable definitions of God, because his manifestations are innumerable. They overwhelm me with wonder and awe, and for a moment stun me. But I worship God as truth only. I have not yet found him, but I am seeking after him. I am prepared to sacrifice the things dearest to me in pursuit of this quest, even if the sacrifice demanded be my very life. I hope I may be prepared to give it. But as long as I have not realized this absolute truth, so long must I hold by the relative truth as I have conceived it. That relative truth must, meanwhile, be my beacon, my shield, and my buckler. Though this path is straight and narrow and sharp as the razor's edge, for me it has been the quickest and easiest. Even my Himalayan blunders have seemed trifling to me because I have kept strictly to this path. For the path has saved me from coming to grief, and I have gone forward according to my light. Often in my progress I have had faint glimpses of the absolute truth, God, and daily the conviction is growing upon me that he alone is real and all else is unreal. Let those who wish realize how the conviction has grown upon me. Let them share my experiments and share also my conviction, if they can. The further conviction has been growing upon me that whatever is possible for me is possible even for a child, and I have sound reasons for saying so. The instruments for the quest of truth are as simple as they are difficult. They may appear quite impossible to an arrogant person and quite possible to an innocent child. The seeker after truth should be humbler than the dust. The world crushes the dust under its feet, but the seeker after truth should so humble himself that even the dust could crush him. Only then, and not till then, will he have a glimpse of truth. The dialogue between Vasishtha and Vishvamitra makes this abundantly clear. Christianity and Islam also amply bear it out. If anything I write in these pages should strike the reader as being touched with pride, then he must take it that there is something wrong with my quest, and that my glimpses are no more than mirage. Let hundreds like me perish, but let truth prevail. Let us not reduce the standard of truth even by a hair's breadth for judging erring mortals like myself. I hope and pray that no one will regard the advice interspersed in the following chapters as authoritative. The experiments narrated should be regarded as illustrations, in the light of which everyone may carry on his own experiments according to his own inclinations and capacity. I trust that to this limited extent the illustrations will be really helpful, because I am not going either to conceal or understate any ugly things that must be told. I hope to acquaint the reader fully with all my faults and errors. My purpose is to describe experiments in the science of satyagraha, not to say how good I am. In judging myself, I shall try to be as harsh as truth as I want others also to be. Measuring myself by that standard, I must exclaim with Surdas, "Where is there a wretch so wicked and loathsome as I? I have forsaken my Maker, so faithless have I been." For it is an unbroken torture to me that I am still so far from him, who, as I fully know, governs every breath of my life, and whose offspring I am. I know that it is the evil passions within that keep me so far from him, and yet I cannot get away from them. But I must close. I can only take up the actual story in the next chapter. M.K. Gandhi, at the ashram, Sabarmati, 26th November, 1925. And that was merely the introduction, weighty though it was, of Mohandas K. Gandhi, an autobiography, the story of my experiments with truth. I hope that you are looking forward to the further readings from this book already as much as I am. And I thank you very much for watching and for listening.